You've no doubt heard about the body mind connection. Well, today I'd like to talk to you about how you can use the body mind connection to help yourself and your dog. And so, in case we're meeting for the first time, my name is Mary Debono, and this is the Easier Movement, Happier Dogs podcast. So, yeah, let's talk about the body mind connection. We think sometimes we just kind of assume, just unconsciously, that our bodies are just these kind of passive vehicles that, you know, get us around, right? But that they don't really play a role in how we feel emotionally, how we feel mentally, the decisions we make. But in fact, there's a real connection between how we feel, how we treat ourselves, even, physically, and the thoughts and feelings we experience and the decisions we make and the results that happen because of those decisions. So, and what's interesting about this is that this linkage between the body and the mind, I mean, this has been well studied. Lots of people talk about this. There's also a body mind connection with your dog. In other words, the way your dog feels physically affects, of course, how they feel emotionally. And even more than that, and this is the part I really want to talk to you about today, is there is also this what I call, like, when you're aware and able to use the body mind connection of yourself, and you're aware of it in your dog, right? Then you actually have a stronger connection with your dog. In other words, to put it a little more simply, a little more plainly, is that by being more aware and more in control, let's just say, of your body, right, of your physicalness, right? And then you couple that with being more aware and in control, if you will, of your mental processes, right? Your emotional well-being, the thoughts you have, all those things. A lot of it is unconscious, but you can become aware of it. That will allow you to create a stronger connection with your dog, as well as being better able to help your dog hone their body mind connection as well, so that they feel the best they can and live their best lives. So, let me give you some examples. So, some time ago, I worked with this dog. His name was Charlie, and he was actually a very aggressive dog, and his breeding was interesting. Not necessarily what you would think would be an aggressive dog. He was Saint Bernard and Golden Retriever mix. And you don't usually think of those breeds as being very aggressive, but he was. He was very aggressive, turned out. And he was being helped by this incredible dog trainer who was using all positive methods, was a wonderful, wonderful guy. And he really wanted to help this dog because this dog's life was on the line. So there had been a lot of scary situations with this dog being aggressive to people, including his own person, and most importantly, in some ways, the owner's new husband, who didn't like the dog. So this trainer was trying to help, and he called me in on the case because he had a feeling that the dog had a lot of physical issues that weren't being addressed. And it wasn't the kind, the dog was taken to a vet. I mean, he was muzzled and sedated and all that. So he was cared for from a veterinary perspective, but there were just other things that this gentleman could tell, the trainer could tell about his movement, that he's like, there's something still not right with him besides the aggression. And I don't know, maybe very naively, I agreed to work with the dog. And actually, he was fine with me. And this is not a podcast about working with aggressive dogs, so please don't attempt to do that. And it's not something I specialize in any way. Certainly not anymore. That's not my focus. Um, but it was a really interesting situation because I right away I kind of honed in. First of all, I was careful how I was using my body language around the dog. And, I knew this dog trainer, and I trusted that he was not going to put me in a terribly dangerous situation. Of course, any dog can bite. And no, the dog was not muzzled, by the way, because the muzzle, I guess, created a lot of other issues with the dog, etc. But I did work with him, and I noticed right away that he had, just by looking at him, I could tell that he had a lot of soreness and stiffness. I wouldn't even say soreness as much as just tension around his shoulders. And this is true for many, many dogs. Many dogs get immediate relief when you work around their shoulders. I think I've talked about this in other podcasts because it's often a strategy I use, not necessarily with aggressive dogs, but dogs who are worried about me touching them or about their person touching them. I often have people very, very gently start working around the shoulder blades because it can give the dog kind of that immediate relief, like a quick win, if you will. So the dog realizes, oh, this is going to feel good. And that's what I did with this dog. And I ended up giving him a whole session, and he was very pleasant for me to work with. And again, I don't know how much of his aggression came from discomfort, but he had certainly associated some issues with his body with then, people handling him and stuff, and he turned that into aggression. So luckily for him, this wonderful trainer was really able to help him turn around to a certain degree. So that was nice. And I've had other situations like this. I'm thinking about Nikita. I wrote about him. I have a blog post about him. His name was Bruno. He was a big guy, 140 pounds, very intimidating to his own people, and he had bitten other people. And in the blog post, I detail how I worked with him. But again, I think a lot of his aggression stemmed from he had hip surgeries and knee surgeries starting as a puppy. I think by the time he was 18 months, he had something like 4 surgeries or something like that for orthopedic problems. And he was 9 when I met him and had a history of biting and definitely lots of intimidation of people. And he was often muzzled. He was only had to be muzzled going to the vet, etc. And he was basically just kept away from most people. But I was able to help his people also connect with him on a physical level. They were kind of just avoiding ever touching him. His nails weren't done, things like that. And again, it was this idea that when you're feeling bad in your body, right, it's really hard to be happy, right? To be joyful, to give someone the benefit of the doubt. You've probably experienced this if you had a headache or some other painful issue going on. Maybe you didn't have the patience that you normally have, or just other things are bothering you. So of course we know that, and we know that about our dogs. And a lot of times it doesn't come out as aggression. It may come out as anxiety. It may come out as just an unwillingness to engage with you, not wanting to be, to work in teaching your dog something. Your dog might not want to play, all kinds of ways, right? We know that. We know how you feel, right? You know that body mind connection. So here's the thing. What can you do to help? So I feel that having more awareness of our own body helps our dogs have more awareness and thus control of their own. So the way I talk about it in my work, which I call Debono moves, is you either transmit a sense of ease or a sense of unease to your dog at any given time. And it'll vary throughout the day, I'm sure. But just say you're going for a walk and you're maybe happy to go on the walk, and your dog is happy to go on the walk. And suddenly, halfway down the street, you get worried about something. Maybe it's something that's not at all related to your dog, but you think of something that is bothersome, or you see a neighbor approach you and you don't like her, or something like that. And suddenly your physical body changes, right? There are changes. We know how sensitive our dogs are, right, to physical sensations. Think of all the incredible service dogs that are trained to detect, you know, changes in the chemical smell of your body and things like that when there's a medical issue. So we know dogs pick up on this. And but also, so that's not even for you just an emotional feeling, right? You might go, "Oh, that's Sarah. I don't like her," right? But it's not just how you feel emotionally. Again, you're gonna have physical changes. You may just start to have more tension in your shoulders and your neck. Your breathing may change, right? So the more we can start to be aware of these things, because they often happen at the unconscious level. We don't even know we're creating these changes in ourselves. And but our dog is reacting to them, and our minds are reacting to them, right? So we start to feel differently. Now suddenly the experience of the walk has changed. And again, I want to emphasize, so much of what goes on in the background in our mind is unconscious. We may not even realize what we're doing. So the more we can bring it to the forefront, to more under our conscious awareness, the more then we can change it and we can improve it to improve our lives and our dog's lives. So take something like walking, right? Just start to be more mindful. Like as you're walking, you can do this with your dog or without your dog. Notice how you're breathing, right? Notice the feel of your feet, your shoes against the ground, right? If you're going on uneven surfaces, feel those uneven surfaces. Of course, obviously you still stay aware of your surroundings and your dog, right? For sure. But you bring your awareness back to yourself periodically. And you ask yourself, where can I let go? Where can I release unnecessary tension? Because so often we're doing things where, holding the leash with a death grip, right? That's not to say let it just be loose and your dog could get away. Of course not. But, notice where you can let go, right? Notice, how you can have more freedom in your pelvis and your hips, how your arms could swing a little bit more freely, right? How your eyes could be softer. And then notice what you think about on your walks. Are you now, many people like to listen to things when they walk with their dog. They listen to music or podcasts or something like that. Personally, I don't do that. If I'm with my dog, I'm with my dog. So, and it actually physically changes the experience for you. There's been some research done about this, is that when you're listening to something as you're walking, it changes the experience, not necessarily in a positive way, and I would have to look up the research about that. But, something to consider is that it does take you, in a way, out of the experience. And when I'm with my dog, I prefer to be with my dog. So, but notice if maybe you do want to listen to something. Okay, fine. But notice where your thoughts go. Are they focused solely on that podcast or that piece of music you're listening to? Or are you, wondering about or thinking about what else you have to do later that day or something else? Or maybe a conversation you had with a friend that didn't go well yesterday, or something you're going to do tomorrow that you're worried about. And really think about bringing your attention back to the present moment, right? That's what your dog is. Your dog is in the present moment. We know that, right? So, so these are just small little ways that you can start to engage with your body more, with bringing your awareness back to it. And of course, in my book, Grow Young with Your Dog, I have a whole set of Feldenkrais method awareness through movement lessons that help you be more in touch with your body, help you use it more comfortably, more easily, so you can do, physical things with greater ease, with greater comfort, all that good stuff. But, even simple things like, again, noticing how you're breathing, how you're walking, and where you can let go of tension. That can be very useful to start to engage more with your body, to bring more awareness to your body. Okay. And the same with your mind. Ask yourself, like, how can that feel easier? Like if you're thinking about something, you don't have to shut down that thought, but maybe you're thinking about something you have to do later and it's pressing on you, maybe a work thing, maybe a home thing, whatever it is. You think, well, how could that feel easier? And just maybe even go through some scenarios about that. It's like letting go of mental effort, if you will, the same way we talk about letting go of unnecessary physical effort helps you right? Improves the way you move, improves the way you feel. You can also let go of unnecessary mental effort and mental baggage. And then, very importantly, think about the connection you have with your dog and how transmitting this sense of ease helps your communication be clearer with your dog, helps your dog want to tune into you. I often say how you move, how you breathe, how you direct your attention, they're all felt by your dog and they all shape the interactions you have with your dog. Okay. So remember that. And then for your dog, let's talk now about just a few simple ways of how you can improve your dog's body awareness, right? How you can improve how they feel in their body. Again, my book goes into great detail. My book is Grow Young with Your Dog. For those of you watching, I have it right here. It goes into great detail about specific things you can do that are gentle. You could learn them easily, with your hands, and that can help improve your dog's body awareness. It's often improved dogs' mobility, the way they move, all kinds of wonderful things. But you can just start with a simple, what I call a simple scan with your dog, maybe just lying on the floor in the living room with you at a time of day when your dog is relaxed. Your dog isn't waiting for dinner. Your dog has been well exercised. You're relaxed. Your dog is relaxed. And you simply run your hands very slowly over your dog, just pausing where you feel inclined to pause, just where you feel called to pause and breathe together. It's amazing how that can bring more awareness to those parts of your dog. It also can help your dog help you notice things that change about your dog. Maybe there's things that you didn't notice before, but because you've never taken the time to kind of really, really go over your dog in this way. So that's just something simple you can do. Um, and then even throughout the day, you can ask yourself, maybe if you notice something with your dog, maybe you notice your dog being a little anxious, uh, having some issues with movement, like small ones we're talking about. Of course, your dog is under the care of a veterinarian. I've assumed that. But you just notice something you wish was a little better. You can think about, okay, I'm going to pause for a moment. And where can I soften in my own body? Where can I release unnecessary tension? And then notice how that changes anything with your dog. This is especially good for those dogs that are feeling some anxiety, because often that becomes this um, kind of vicious cycle between us and the dog, right? We notice our dog gets anxious, and then we get anxious about it because we don't want it to be that. We don't want the dog to feel that way, and we don't like the behaviors maybe that the dog is doing. And then we're just feeding off each other. But instead, if you take control of your own body, your own physical state, your own mind, right? Your own mental state, your own emotional well being, and you think, okay, how can I change that? Where can I let go of what's unnecessary, what's not helpful, and see how that changes for your dog? And, it's really interesting because you think, well, how does this help the dog physically? But it can, because dogs, just like humans, get into what I call a downward spiral. And things get tense, they get sore, so they compensate. So then something else gets sore and stiff, and down and down we go. Again, I know I keep mentioning my book, but I talk about this in my book because it's very, very common, especially if a dog has had an injury or is older. And so they're dealing with something. And it's so important for us to help them get out of that downward spiral. As a matter of fact, I also talk about this in I have a free masterclass. It's three videos that you get for free. And you can find it at marydebono.com/dog. Just marydebono.com/dog. And the link will be in the description of wherever you're listening or watching this. And that I go into some detail about how you can help your dog get out of that downward spiral. Again, that's something that affects a lot of dogs that have either been injured or dealing with a congenital problem, an orthopedic problem they may have had from birth, or, very senior dogs, right? Or dogs that have had strokes or just arthritis and stiffness over time, right? We want to get them out of that downward spiral. And thinking about the body mind connection, and very importantly, that it's not just a standalone, it's not just your dog's body, your dog's mind. Okay. And it's not just your body and your mind, but it's that interplay between them, right? Because how you move and how you feel affects your dog. And I want to point something out. Some people that work with me have a lot of physical issues. They could even be in wheelchairs, right? Like they have a lot of physical issues, but they embody a sense of ease. I know that may sound contra, you know, uh, just like how can that be? How could you be so contradictory? Where if you're physically, having these physical problems, how do you embody a sense of ease? But you can. That means whatever is in your repertoire, whatever is in your ability, you do it with a sense of ease and a sense of optimism of how you can improve. And again, this is body mind, right? This affects both. So, Moshe Feldenkrais, the man who originated the Feldenkrais method, and I'm a Feldenkrais method practitioner for several decades. Um, he talked a lot about this, like his definition, if you will, of health was the ability to bounce back. It was about being resilient. It was about having that sense of optimism that even if you never could get out of, say, the wheelchair or whatever other physical limitations you have, is that you know that you can improve to some degree. Okay. That you can improve something. And I have seen this over and over with dogs as well. I have worked with really senior dogs that were like literally at the end of their lives, that I had either, pretty catastrophic strokes or other issues going on. And I have found over and over again that some degree of improvement was possible despite advanced age, despite advanced um, physical things going on. So it's really interesting. It doesn't mean that every dog will get up and start running and playing again, but that there's some improvement. Sometimes it's just that sensation of quality of life, like there's a calmness about the dog. There's more of a feeling of peace and well-being between the dog and their person, despite being at the end of life. That's an improvement. That's a beautiful gift. So these are things we can do. Now, sometimes the improvements did seem miraculous, right? And I talk about them in my book and other places where dogs that didn't walk because of stroke or whatever suddenly start walking after just a few sessions of doing this hands-on work. So, yeah, those things can happen, but they're not all, we don't always get those miracles, right? We don't always get that, huge change, especially at end of life. However, embodying the sense that things can feel better, they can feel better physically, they can feel better mentally or emotionally, like in your mind, will elevate your life, will enrich your life. One of my taglines is, you know, enhance movement, enrich life. Because that's what we do when we help improve movement for you and your dog. You're enriching your life and your dog's life. And again, deepening that connection, that bond between you. So I hope this gives you some ideas, some things to play with. So just as a quick little recap, remember that your physical body, right? How you move, how you feel physically affects how you feel emotionally, right? Affects what your mind is doing and vice versa, right? There is a connection. It's undeniable that there's a strong connection between body and mind. And then remembering that your dog has that connection as well within themselves. And then very importantly, right? So when we improve how we feel and move, it improves how we feel emotionally and vice versa. There are ways we can help ourselves, there are ways we can help our dogs feel better physically and emotionally. And then very importantly, to recognize that how we feel in body and mind affects our dogs, right? And vice versa as well, right? The way our dogs feel can affect us as well. So there is that interplay. So addressing these things is important for you and your dog. And just real briefly, some ways to help your dog. You can just do a very slow scan when your dog is relaxed, really letting your hands linger and be curious. Like run your hands down your dog as if you never had touched your dog before, or that you were creating a sculpture and you needed to know exactly all the contours of your dog. This has an added benefit of helping you notice if anything goes, a little bump or something that may appear. You'll probably feel it very quickly, as opposed to if you just do your normal grooming and petting your dog. But really, really paying attention to your dog's body like that in an intentional way helps improve your dog's body awareness. So their nervous system gets more aware of how they feel, right? So we want that body awareness that will help them move more freely in many cases. So, you know, um, and then just, if you notice your dog being anxious, for example, at any point, not during this, you can during this, but also at any time, you know, first check in with yourself. Ask yourself, well, where can I let go of unnecessary tension? How can I breathe in a more relaxed way? Kind of work through, like do a body scan from head to toe and let go of what's unnecessary and that's holding you back. And you might see a pretty quick change in your dog as well. So those are just some other things. Another thing to do is, you know, change up your routine a little bit. That gets the attention of the nervous system and if you do it in a way that feels safe, so you're not doing anything scary for your dog, that can bring more awareness to the dog's body in a helpful way. So those are some things you can play with. So I'd love to hear how this works for you. What do you think about your body mind connection and how it impacts your dog? And let me know if you have any questions either about this subject or anything else. And I'll do a podcast for you as well. So thank you so much for subscribing, listening, and reviewing the podcast. I appreciate you so much. And I look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye for now.